He laughed at the black intern, until she spoke perfect Chinese. The glass walls gleamed like ice. Everything smelled of money, crisp suits, lemon polish, espresso steam. $1 million boardroom sat high above the city, 34 floors up, where clouds pressed against the windows and the skyline bowed to power, and in that room, she stood. Amara Daniels, 26, black, brilliant, terrified. Her palms were slick against the folder clutched to her chest. She could hear her heartbeat, thump, 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 like footsteps on marble. Around her, whispers crackled like static. Who's she? She's the intern. I think. Late? No, just out of place. A deep voice cut through the murmurs. Everyone, let's begin. Mr. Hargrove, silver hair, eyes sharp as blades. CEO of Hargrove Global, a billion-dollar trading firm known for its ruthless deals, especially with China. He adjusted his cufflinks, each one glinting like a coin, and scanned the room. Then his gaze landed on her. Amara, is it? Yes, sir. Her voice almost cracked, but she swallowed it down. Marketing intern. He smiled, the kind that hides knives. Well, Amara, today's a big day. Our Chinese partners are joining us remotely. This deal could mean $200 million. He leaned back, amused. But our translator's running late. So, unless you speak Mandarin, his smirk widened. You're just here to watch how business is really done. Laughter rippled around the table. Soft, polished, poisonous. She said nothing. Just nodded, eyes steady. Inside, her heart was breaking glass. You've worked for this your whole life. Amara, don't let them see you shake. The screen flickered to life. 4 executives from Beijing appeared. Faces framed by minimalist offices, their company logo bright behind them. Jinshi Holdings. Good morning. Mr. Hargrove, one of them began in Mandarin. We are pleased to discuss final terms. The words rolled out, smooth, fast, native. But Hargrove frowned, confused. He turned to his team. Where's the translator? Still stuck in traffic, sir, muttered someone. The Beijing rep continued speaking, unaware that no one here understood him. Hargrove tried to fake it, nodding along. Yes, that's very interesting. The rep paused, eyebrows raised. You understood? The silence was sharp enough to cut. Someone snorted quietly. Another tapped a pen nervously. Amara's pulse thundered in her ears. She could feel it, that mix of humiliation and powerlessness hanging heavy in the air. And then, Hargrove turned to her again. That same cruel glimmer in his eyes. Tell you what, he said, voice dripping arrogance. If you can translate what he just said, I'll give your mother my job. Laughter exploded, loud, mocking. Even the walls seemed to echo with it. Her throat tightened. Her fingers curled against the folder. The air smelled like burnt coffee and ego. Inside, something rose. Something hot, sharp, electric. Slow motion. The laughter faded. All she could hear was her heartbeat. Thump, thump, thump. She straightened her back. Would you like me to? She said softly. The laughter stuttered. Hargrove blinked. What? I asked, she said, her voice steady now. Would you like me to translate? No one moved. Even the air seemed to stop breathing. Then she turned toward the screen. Her eyes locked on the lead executive, and in fluent, graceful Mandarin she began to speak. 您好，我叫阿玛拉，很高兴今天能和您讨论合作，请继续刚才的内容。Hello, my name is Amara. It's an honor to discuss our partnership today. Please continue from where you left off. The room froze. Chairs creaked. A pen dropped to the table. Someone whispered, She's speaking Mandarin? The executives on screen looked startled, then smiled, relieved. Oh, one of them replied warmly in Chinese. You speak beautifully. Where did you learn? Amara smiled back. Beijing Dajue, she said. Peking University. Gasps. The whispers turned to stunned silence. She continued translating effortlessly, her tone precise, her pronunciation flawless. Every word sliced through the arrogance in that room like glass through silk. Mr. Hargrove just sat there. Mouth slightly open. Hands frozen mid-gesture. He blinked. You studied in Beijing? She turned to him, still calm. Yes, sir. Full scholarship. I interned at Jinshi Holdings before this one. The color drained from his face. her voice lowered, almost tender. Would you like me to continue the meeting, or shall we wait for the translator? Silence. Then, the sound of someone clearing their throat. Proceed, Hargrove muttered, barely audible. She did, and for the next 40 minutes, Amara led the meeting, commanding, confident, translating both sides seamlessly. When it ended, the Jinshi executives applauded her. One of them said in Mandarin, "Your company is lucky to have someone like you," and that's when she looked at Hargrove. Just a flicker of a glance, a quiet smile. The applause echoed in his silence. But under that calm surface, a storm brewed. Because power never concedes gracefully, and Hargrove's jaw tightened. His smile returned, colder now, calculated. "Well done," he said softly. "We'll talk after this." Something in his tone made her stomach drop. The camera of fate zoomed in, her steady eyes meeting his steel glare. Slow-motion heartbeat, thump, thump. That's when she knew. This wasn't over. He wasn't done with her, not yet. If you humiliated a man who never loses, how long before he makes you pay? The rain had a rhythm that night, soft taps against the thin apartment window, like a heartbeat trying to stay alive. Amara sat by the small desk her mother had bought from a thrift store, the edges chipped, the wood faintly smelling of lemon polish and old books. Her laptop glowed pale blue in the dark. Pages of Mandarin characters filled the screen. She whispered each word to herself. Her voice was tired but precise. How means good, she smiled faintly. Even when things aren't. From the next room, her mother coughed, a dry, aching sound that broke the silence. "Baby!" her voice rasped. Amara turned. "I'm here, Mama. Don't stay up too late. You've got that internship tomorrow." "I know." A pause. Then softer. "You'll show them. One day." Those words were like armor. Fragile, but enough to keep her upright. She'd grown up in the edges of Atlanta, where buses wheezed and sidewalks cracked under the weight of forgotten dreams. Her mother worked double shifts at a nursing home, gloves, bleach, and prayers. Amara worked double hours at the library, words, languages, and hunger. Her father? Gone since she was 7. But he'd left one thing, a tattered Chinese dictionary with a note inside. The world opens for those who learn its tongue. She had kept that note in her wallet ever since. The sound of buses. The smell of rain and ramen noodles. The flickering light of that tiny apartment. That was her classroom. While other kids went to parties, she went to the public library. She'd listen to Mandarin podcasts, her lips moving with the rhythm. People stared sometimes. A few laughed. "Girl, why you learning that?" She'd shrug. "Because I can." But inside she whispered something else. Because one day, I'll need it fast forward 5 years. Peking University, Beijing, winter. The cold slapped her face like glass, sharp, clean, alive. She remembered stepping out of the airport, her breath forming clouds, her hands shaking not from cold but disbelief. A full scholarship. A black girl from Atlanta, walking through Beijing's red gates of academia. The first semester was brutal. The professors spoke fast, the characters blurred together, the loneliness gnawed. Some students stared too long. Others whispered when she passed. She must be American. She's not one of us. She'll drop out. She'd smile. Bow politely. Keep studying. But at night, when the city lights painted her dorm wall gold and white, she'd whisper into the quiet. Not today. I don't quit today. Each failure became fuel. Each doubt, a nail she hammered into a bridge toward something bigger. Her accent sharpened. Her confidence grew. She tutored local kids in English and Mandarin just to pay for books. She learned the taste of jasmine tea and the sound of laughter that didn't need translation. And slowly, the whispers changed. She's actually good. She sounds native. She's one of us now. Then came the internship with Jinshi Holdings, one of Beijing's top firms. She started in the translation department, buried under files. Every day she brought precision. Every night she brought hunger. Her supervisor, Mr. Zhao, noticed. "You're not like the others," he told her one evening, tapping the stack of reports she'd finished. She smiled. Maybe because I'm used to being underestimated. He nodded. Then you'll do well in business. We respect patience here. But when her mother fell ill back home, she made the hardest decision of her life. She turned down a permanent offer at Jinshi. Came back to America, back to the cracked sidewalks and the smell of rain. Her mother was proud, but also worried. You left a good job, baby, Amara smiled. I'll build a better one. That's when she applied for the internship at Hargrove Global, the very company that would later humiliate her. It was her dream firm, multinational, powerful, sleek. She walked in on her first day wearing her only blazer, patched on the inside, ironed 3 times. She smiled at everyone. Few smiled back. They didn't need to say it aloud. The message was in every look. You don't belong here. The office air smelled like money and intimidation. Roasted coffee, designer perfume, leather chairs. She sat in her cubicle, ignored by the cliques. When she spoke, people talked over her. When she made suggestions, they were credited to someone else. One afternoon, she overheard 2 coworkers whispering near the break room. Affirmative action hire. Won't last long. Her fingers froze around her coffee cup. She forced a smile, pretending she hadn't heard. But inside, something hardened. She began to notice the hierarchy. How they laughed a little too loud at Hargrove's jokes. How the only black faces were in the maintenance staff. Still, she showed up every day, early, prepared. She stayed late. Helped others with presentations no one thanked her for. And sometimes, when the office was empty and she could finally breathe, she'd open that dictionary again, the same one her father left. Her fingers traced the faded ink. She'd whisper in Mandarin, 不要放弃. Don't give up. Then came the email. Be in conference room A, 9:00 a.m., CEO presentation, mandatory. She thought it was routine. Another morning, another pitch. She didn't know she was walking into a moment that would define her. She remembered walking past the glass walls that morning. The elevator hummed low and steady. Perfume and cologne hung in the air like armor. Her heart pounded. The rhythm of destiny approaching. That meeting. The laughter. The cruelty, the translation. All of it flashed in her memory like lightning. And now, standing in the aftermath of that humiliation turned victory, she could still hear her mother's voice in her head. Show them, baby. Don't let them tell you who you are. She had shown them. But something about the way Hargrove smiled afterward, too calm, too controlled, told her one thing. He wasn't beaten. He was planning, and she knew what powerful men did when their egos were wounded. She just didn't know how far he'd go. The moment you expose a lie, you become its target. The applause from that morning's meeting still echoed in Amara's head, faint and fading, like thunder rolling away from a storm. But the silence that followed? That was worse. Days passed. No congratulations. No follow-up emails, just stillness. And in that stillness, whispers. Did you hear? The intern embarrassed Hargrove. Yeah, she showed off. Big mistake. He doesn't forget things like that. The office air felt colder now. People who used to nod at her looked away. Printers hummed. Keyboards clacked. Conversations stopped when she walked by. Amara kept her head down. But she could feel it, the invisible wall closing in. Then came the email. Subject, meeting, HR follow-up. From J. Hargrove, hargroveglobal.com, time 4 p.m. Her stomach twisted. She sat alone in her cubicle, watching the clock tick toward 4. Each second thudded like a heartbeat. Thump, thump, thump. When she walked into HR, the smell of air freshener stung her nose, too sweet, like trying to hide something rotten. Hargrove sat there already. His tie perfect, his smile rehearsed. Beside him, a woman from HR, eyes glued to her clipboard. Amara, Hargrove began smoothly. Please sit, she did. The chair was cold. Metal biting through fabric. He folded his hands. That meeting last week? Interesting display. Very impressive Mandarin. Thank you, sir. But, he continued, voice lowering, you overstepped. You weren't authorized to lead client negotiations. Her jaw tensed. I only translated because you wanted attention, he cut in. You embarrassed this company. And me. The HR rep flinched slightly but said nothing. Hargrove leaned forward. Now I'm not unreasonable. You're bright, but not a fit. We'll be ending your internship early. Her heartbeat roared in her ears. You're firing me? Internships end all the time. He smiled thinly. No hard feelings, Amara's throat burned. Her palms trembled under the table. She wanted to scream, to call it what it was. Retaliation, racism, ego. But she knew better. One wrong word, and he'd bury her completely. So she inhaled slowly, forcing her voice steady. Understood, she stood. Her hand brushed the edge of the metal table. Cold, grounding. Then she met his eyes. I hope one day you learn the difference between being challenged and being exposed. He chuckled, low and condescending. Oh, I've learned, Ms. Daniels. I've learned that power doesn't like surprises. Outside the HR office, her legs felt numb. She walked down the hallway, the sound of her heels echoing off marble, each step hollow and heavy. The elevator doors closed in slow motion, reflecting her face, composed but cracked inside. When she reached the lobby, she exhaled, a shaky breath that had been trapped for too long. She walked out into the city. Cold wind, car horns, the scent of exhaust and roasted chestnuts from a street cart. Life kept moving like nothing had changed, but inside, everything had. She sat on a bench near the subway entrance, staring at her reflection in the glass. A tear slipped down, catching the glow of a passing car. You did nothing wrong, she told herself. You told the truth, her phone buzzed. A message from an unknown number. You handled yourself well in that meeting. Mr. Zhao, Jinshi Holdings, her breath caught. She hadn't spoken to him since leaving Beijing. She typed back hesitantly, thank you. It didn't end well. He replied almost instantly, I heard. Hargrove called after the meeting. Tried to spin the story. Didn't work, she blinked. Didn't work? We recorded the meeting for internal purposes. The footage shows everything, including how he mocked you before you spoke. Her heartbeat quickened. They have proof. Our team wants to collaborate with you directly. We're expanding into the US market. Maybe it's time someone else led that. Her fingers froze on the phone screen. Led that her? For the first time in days, she smiled. Small, disbelieving, real. She typed back, let's talk. Over the next week, she met with Jinshi's US division through video calls. Her Mandarin flowed like music again. They discussed strategy, branding, outreach. Every conversation reminded her who she was before Hargrove tried to silence her. Sharp, capable, unapologetic. Still, at night, fear whispered in her ear. What if he finds out? What if he ruins you? She remembered the way he'd smiled, that predator calm. And she knew he wasn't done. 2 days later, her phone rang. Unknown number, she answered. Miss Daniels? The voice was clipped, official. This is the legal department at Hargrove Global. Mr. Hargrove requests you return all company materials immediately. She froze. I already returned my ID and laptop. There's also a non-disclosure clause regarding all internal meetings, including client interactions. Her pulse spiked. He's trying to silence me, she ended the call. Hands shaking. Then another buzz, an email this time. Cease and desist. Any attempt to contact or represent Jinshi Holdings under your former title will result in legal action. She exhaled shakily. The city noise faded. All she could hear was the rush of her own blood. He wasn't just punishing her. He was trying to erase her, but Amara wasn't built to disappear. That night she sat by her window again, just like in that old apartment. The same city hum, the same faint smell of rain. She whispered her father's words. The world opens for those who learn its tongue. She smiled through tears. Then softly in Mandarin, 那我就打开它. Then I'll open it myself. She picked up her phone, heart pounding. Composed a new email into Jinshi Holdings. If Hargrove won't build bridges, I will. Let's create our own partnership, one that proves merit speaks louder than money. She hit send. The screen glowed against her face. Outside, lightning flashed, like a camera shutter capturing the start of something bigger. Somewhere in a high-rise office, Hargrove poured a drink, staring at the city below. He just read the same email, and smiled coldly. This little girl thinks she can play with giants, he muttered. Let's see how long she lasts. He had money. She had truth. And the world was about to watch them collide. The boardroom again. Same skyline, same glass walls. But this time the storm outside wasn't weather, it was war. Rain lashed against the windows in furious streaks. Thunder rumbled like distant drums. Inside, men in suits whispered, tension sharp in the air like static. The entire executive board was gathered. At the head of the table, Jonathan Hargrove, cold, polished, smiling too much. Across from him sat Mr. Zhao and two representatives from Jinshi Holdings, newly arrived from Beijing. And next to them, Amara Daniels. No intern badge. No hesitation. Just calm authority in a charcoal blazer and quiet eyes that had seen fire. Every eye in that room flicked between them, unsure who truly held the power now. Hargrove's voice broke the silence first. Ladies and gentlemen, let's clarify a few things. I called this meeting because there's been confusion. He looked at Amara, his smile barely hiding his venom. Certain former interns seem to think they represent my company. The air shifted. A few executives exchanged uneasy glances. The rain outside beat harder, tap, 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 like a ticking clock. Mr. Zhao tilted his head. With respect, Mr. Hargrove, Miss Daniels reached out after you dismissed her. We reviewed the footage of your previous meeting. He glanced at Amara with quiet respect. She displayed professionalism, linguistic skill, and cross-cultural fluency your team lacked. We were impressed. Hargrove laughed softly, a hollow, metallic sound. Footage? Oh, I'm sure that was edited, Amara finally spoke. Her voice was steady, clear. It wasn't. Her tone sliced through the room. Cameras turned. Eyes fixed. She reached into her folder, calm, deliberate, and pulled out a small flash drive. Here's the full recording, uncut, time-stamped. It shows what happened that day. Hargrove's face paled slightly, but he forced a chuckle. Recordings without authorization are inadmissible and they were made by Jinshi, she interrupted softly. Her voice didn't rise. It didn't need to. Standard protocol for remote negotiations. Everyone was notified. You just didn't read the consent forms you signed. A murmur rippled through the room. Slow motion now. Hargrove's eyes flicked left, right. His mask began to crack. Mr. Zhao nodded to an assistant who plugged in the drive. The big screen flickered, and the recording began. There it was. The laughter. Hargrove's exact words dripping arrogance. If she translates, I'll give her mother my job. A few executives gasped. Someone muttered, He didn't. Hargrove's jaw clenched. He could hear it. The sound of his own downfall playing through surround speakers. Then came the moment of reversal. Amara speaking flawless Mandarin, silencing the entire room. Even now, watching it again, the power of that moment radiated through the air. When the video ended, silence followed. The kind of silence that screams louder than words. Amara stood. Her heartbeat pounded like a drum inside her chest, but her voice was calm. When you fired me, you said I embarrassed this company. But I didn't. I represented it better than the man who runs it. Hargrove's hand slammed the table. Crack! Enough! He roared. You think because you speak a few foreign words, you can talk to me like... She didn't flinch. Like an equal? His nostrils flared. His voice dropped to a growl. You don't belong here, Miss Daniels. You never did. Her eyes glistened, but not with tears. With clarity. She took a step closer, the rain's rhythm syncing with her heartbeat. I know. That's what you wanted to believe. But belonging isn't something you give, Mr. Hargrove. It's something I claim. She turned to the board, her gaze sweeping across them. I didn't come here to beg for a job. I came here to offer one. Jinshi Holdings and I have formed a joint venture, a bilingual trade initiative. We're expanding into the U.S. market starting next month. Gasps, murmurs. Her words landed like thunder. Mr. Zhao smiled faintly. We've decided Miss Daniels will serve as U.S. Regional Director and... We'll be moving our North American contracts away from Hargrove Global. It hit like a grenade. Contracts worth hundreds of millions. Gone. Hargrove's face turned the color of paper. You signed... No, Mr. Zhao interrupted politely. You did. She didn't. Cameras flashed as reporters outside pressed against the glass wall, filming the scene through rain-streaked windows. The whispers grew into a rising wave. Employees texting, calling, recording. Amara stood perfectly still in the center of it all. No gloating, no rage. Just quiet grace, the kind that comes from surviving storms no one else could see. Hargrove staggered back into his chair, the sound of his own breath filling the silence. "You'll regret this," he hissed. Amara leaned forward slightly. "I already did. Once." And then, as if scripted by fate, the power flickered, the storm outside cracking open the sky. Lightning illuminated the glass tower for a split second. In that flash, the reflection showed everything. Him fallen, her risen. The moment the lights came back, it was over. The board chair cleared his throat. "Mr. Hargrove, given the evidence, we'll be conducting an internal review of your conduct. Effective immediately." He didn't answer, just stared, defeated, shaking, silent. Amara gathered her folder. Each motion slow, deliberate, cinematic. Then she turned to him one last time. "Power can silence people," she said softly. "But it can't translate truth." She walked out. He sat there, motionless, the storm outside raging against the windows he once believed protected him. As she stepped into the elevator, the doors began to close, and just before they sealed shut, she whispered under her breath in Mandarin, 再见, 先生. "Goodbye, sir." Ding, the doors slid closed. Justice isn't loud. Sometimes it whispers in the language only truth understands. The city was quieter that night. Rain had stopped. The air smelled of metal and jasmine from the flower stalls below the tower. Amara stood on the rooftop terrace of her new office, her office, 34 floors up, overlooking the same skyline that once made her feel small. Now it shimmered differently. Not like power, but possibility. Wind tugged at her curls. The lights below pulsed like veins of gold, alive with movement. She closed her eyes. The memory of that first day replayed in her mind. The laughter, the mockery, the trembling hands clutching that folder. Now when she opened her hands, there was no fear left. Just steady warmth. Behind her, footsteps approached, Mr. Zhao's voice calm and kind. "You did well today, Director Daniels," she smiled faintly. "I just told the truth," he chuckled. "The truth is a sharp weapon. You wielded it wisely." Then softer. "You remind me of myself long ago. But you're braver." They stood in silence, watching the city breathe. The next morning, headlines flooded the internet. CEO, exposed for mocking black employee, fired after viral meeting. Footage. Fluent in justice, the woman, who spoke truth in Mandarin. From intern to director, the story of Amara Daniels. Clips of her confrontation spread like wildfire across every platform. People quoted her line. "Power can silence people, but it can't translate truth." It became a hashtag, a movement. In coffee shops, students watched the video and smiled. In office cubicles, women whispered her name like a prayer. Even strangers in Beijing reposted her speech with captions in Mandarin. 她让世界听见真相. She made the world hear the truth. At Hargrove Global, the silence was deafening. Jonathan Hargrove resigned within the week. The board cited ethical violations and misconduct. His legacy, once polished and golden, now hung in tatters. Reporters camped outside his home, microphones glinting under camera flashes. He never answered. In private, he rewatched that meeting footage. The moment his arrogance turned into ruin. He saw her standing there, unshaken, speaking a language he couldn't understand. And for the first time in his life, he realized, power isn't knowing the words. It's understanding their weight. Back in her new office, Amara received a message. From a name she hadn't seen in months. "Mom, saw you on the news. You looked so proud, baby. Daddy would be too." Her throat tightened. She pressed her phone to her chest and let the tears come. Silent, steady, cleansing. She whispered into the quiet, "Thank you, Mama." Then, in Mandarin, 我做到了. I did it. Weeks passed. Her initiative with Jinshi grew fast, hiring diverse translators, cross-cultural consultants, young people from backgrounds like hers. She made sure the first new hire came from her old neighborhood. A girl who reminded her of herself at 19. Nervous, brilliant, waiting to be seen. "Miss Daniels," the girl said on her first day, wide-eyed. "I don't know if I can do this." Amara smiled gently. "Neither did I, but look where that got me." They both laughed. That laugh, free, unguarded, was worth every bruise, every whisper. Every night she almost gave up. One evening, as the sun dipped behind the skyline, painting the glass towers amber and rose. Amara sat at her desk writing a letter. It wasn't to a corporation or a partner. It was to her father. She wrote, "You said the world opens for those who learn its tongue. But I've learned something more. The world listens to those who dare to speak, no matter the language." She folded it neatly, placed it inside the old Chinese dictionary, and smiled. Outside, thunder rolled softly in the distance, not angry this time, just echoing her heartbeat. She turned toward the window, whispering to the city. Some people build walls, others build bridges. I built one out of words. Then came the knock, a familiar voice at the door. "Miss Daniels, there's a journalist here to see you. Wants to know what message you'd like to leave for young women watching your story." She thought for a long moment. The hum of the city below filled the silence. She felt the wind against her palms, cool and alive. Then she said quietly, "Tell them, every time someone tells you that you don't belong, remember they're just afraid you do." As she walked out of the building that night, the streets glowed wet and silver beneath the neon lights. Cars passed, their reflections painting her in streaks of blue and gold. She didn't hurry. Every step was its own victory. Every breath, its own freedom, behind her. The building sign shone bright. Jinshi Daniels International, her name. Permanent. The city wind carried her mother's laughter in memory. Faint, soft, proud, Amara lifted her face to the night sky, closed her eyes. The world, once so cold, so sharp, finally felt like it was listening. Some people build walls, others build engines that change the world. If this story moved you, share it. Because every act of courage deserves to be seen.